Hey y'all, it's Lauren with Ladies You Are Powerful. I'm here with you guys today to talk about a movie that I just went to go see called Acrimony. You may have already seen the previews. It's starring Taraji P, Henson, and I must say that it was really good. So I want to put a LYAP spin on things and talk about the movie from a Ladies You Are Powerful perspective and discuss it. I'll start off with a spoiler alert. If you have not already seen the movie, you might want to add this video to your watch later playlist. I'm letting you know now, we're about to talk about it. Alright, so Acrimony starts off with two main characters. Melinda, played by Taraji P. Henson, and this guy named Robert. Melinda comes from okay background. She was raised by her mother, and she has two older sisters who kind of were a heavy influence in her life. And then you have Robert, who came from very humble beginnings, kind of a poor background. He made a few bad decisions in his life, got involved with a little life of crime, so on and so forth. But he does better for himself, and he ends up going to college. Melinda met Robert in college on not so good terms. Robert actually bumped into her as she was on her way to class. And so the movie starts off with this tone of her being very angry and mad, right? So she's very frustrated with the fact that she just bumped into this dude and dropped all her stuff, and she's pissed off. And so he's automatically very sorry about it, trying to help her pick up her things. And so she's just like, bro, get out my face, I'm gonna go to class. So he ends up having some of her belongings, and he found out where she lived because of the information that was on it. He went to go take her back her things, and it continues with this tone of her being angry and very frustrated to see him. And he was just very nice, and he just kind of wanted to do right by her, I guess, in a sense. At the beginning of the movie, her mom ended up dying abruptly, and it was very dark and sad, and he was there for her. So she goes through the stage of grieving, and he's there to console her. He actually shows up to the funeral. So she kind of gets in her feelings, and she ends up forming feelings for him and starts a relationship with him. In the movie, initially when they started their relationship, he expressed his purpose and his vision, his goals, because he's really smart and he's pursuing engineering. So he had this like grand idea to create a battery, and he wanted this battery to be kind of self-sufficient, and so it would operate on its own energy. And so he devoted a lot of his time into creating this battery. She comes into all of this money from her mom's death, so she gets a life insurance policy like worth thousands and thousands of dollars. And what does she do? Gives Robert almost all of her money to help fund his dreams. She even bought the guy a car, y'all, like off the lot, no miles, a car. After she bought him this car, he still being young and immature and probably about 18 or 19, he stops talking to her for a couple days. So she follows her intuition, which I feel like all of us women have, and she rolls up to his house, aka his trailer home, because he didn't have a real house. And she stalks him and stays outside for like some hours. Come to find out, he done cheated on her, y'all, with this girl named Diana. She turns all the way up and goes like 100% ape-ish crazy, right? It moves on from there, and she continues to support him. He actually doesn't cheat on her anymore in the whole half of the movie. He ends up kind of maturing and growing, and they get married. She continues to support their marriage while he pursued his purpose till fast forward 18 years later. And she's just tired, He fed her all these like dreams of when his purpose blew up and when they got money, he was gonna do X, Y, and Z for her and take care of her, blah, blah, blah. So she's tired of it. And so she divorces him. He has been trying to patent his idea with this well-known company, this engineering firm or something of that sort, so that they would invest in his vision, give him the finances to be able to make it a reality. Diana, old girl from his past, who he cheated on Melinda with, ends up working for this same firm. So of course he tries to get Diana to take part in this vision, and she does. So she ends up helping him turn his dreams into reality after Melinda divorced him. So fast forward, he makes it, and he ends up having like loads and loads of money, even though he's not with Melinda anymore, and she made it very clear that she didn't want to be with him, like it's over and done. He gives her like $10 million, says thank you so much for believing in me and investing in me and helping me. I hope that this can even begin to repay all that you've done for me. And so Melinda sees, that he made it, and she wants to be a part of this vision. She has no idea that he's actually back with Diana, but he is, and he's actually engaged to Diana. So this whole movie is basically a downward spiral of Melinda's disdain and bitterness for building this guy up, and then him basically sharing his wealth with another one. And acrimony basically is bitterness, anger, rancor, resentment, ill feeling, ill will, bad blood, animosity, hostility, enmity, antagonism, malice, spite, spitefulness, peevishness, venom. No man should ever allow you to have these feelings and dwell in them for as long as Melinda did. And you see her stay through it throughout the movie. She was miserable. She began to lose her mind, and it was because of a person. And I think that there were some things that she did right, and I want to talk about those, but I also want to talk about the things that weren't so right. Now, just random thoughts. I do think Robert was immature when they were in college. It was a lot of things that he did wrong. I do think that he came off a bit manipulative. He did make mistakes in the beginning, but after he committed to her through marriage, he pretty much respected her as a husband should do at bare minimum.
Barely, but
now that wasn't what she ultimately wanted, but at the end of the day, she chose to be with somebody who was following this path. I don't think that in any circumstances we should try to persuade somebody to not chase their purpose. Somebody should always be free to chase their purpose and to do what they feel called to do. And if we aren't aligned with their goal and with their vision, our job is to leave the situation and find somebody who we feel is best aligned with where we see ourselves going in the future. Everything isn't always a man's fault. Hear me out. Sometimes things happen in life that don't seem fair, and for whatever reason, we have to find peace within those things and accept them for what they are. In this case, and in the movie, it was the whole prosperity ideal and how Melinda wanted to have this prosperous life with Robert because she loved him. But in the grand scheme of things, it's almost as like she was not meant to reach that level with Robert. If you think about it, Robert would have never gone big and made it had it not been for Diana helping him to achieve the second half of his purpose. So I feel like Melinda should have accepted that instead of allowing that to overtake her. So she could have accepted that and stayed with him and kept those circumstances of struggling, or she could have divorced him as she did, but she could have moved on gracefully and more peacefully. I say that to say we as women have to recognize what we are signing up for from the jump. He was just focusing on his purpose. She knew that when she met him. That was one of the first things he told her, was that he wanted to try to get this idea off the ground. Either you're okay with it or you're not. So Melinda appeared to have a couple of mental health issues. Getting fed up, she would have these fits of rage. She didn't address that, and she also didn't address her mother passing. I don't think that she thoroughly grieved that process. Now, I won't go too much into specific mental health issues. I leave that to the experts, but I will say that Melinda appeared that she didn't thoroughly address her mental health issues, and I think that contributed to a lot of her problems throughout the movie. Melinda in the movie embraced her crazy, if you will. And I feel like that was very unhealthy, and that was a lot, that contributed to a lot of issues as well. Now, even in the theater when I was in there were women cheering her on as she embraced this crazy mentality. This whole idea of don't mess with me, don't take me to this point of me turning up on you because I ain't the one, I'm crazy, you got me messed up. Nothing wrong with standing up for ourselves as women, but your power does not lie in your ability to appear crazy or to turn up on somebody. Your power actually lies within you being able to choose not to be with somebody that's gonna bring that out of you. So your power isn't in you being crazy, your power is in your choice. Which leads me to the second point. Melinda didn't recognize the power of her choice. So Melinda made a bunch of poor choices throughout this movie. She chose to take Robert home after the funeral while she was emotional. She chose to go in his house. She actually insisted on all these things. That led her to have feelings for him and to choose to be in a relationship with him and to choose to be with him after he cheated on her early on in the relationship. But she chose to stay again and again, and it just was a downward spiral after that. She also chose to tell him how much her insurance policy was worth. He probably wouldn't even known about the insurance policy and how much money she had to be able to manipulate her in the first place had she chose to not tell him this and to not disclose this information. Her sisters even encouraged her up front not to do it before she even thought about it. At the end of the day, we are responsible as women for ourselves. We can waste more time trying to persuade men or people like Robert or people who are immature or young to be honorable or to be noble. We can do those things, but it wastes more time rather than us just being responsible for ourselves and choosing not to do things that will lead us down a wrong path and ended up getting in a sticky situation. But there was one thing that I noticed throughout the movie that Melinda did very right, and I totally give her props for this. She knew what she wanted, and as I always say, she let her yes be yes and her no be no. There was no point in the movie that I noticed her backtrack on what she said. She never said, hey, I don't want to be with you, I changed my mind. She said, I want to give him another chance. I want to give him another chance. And when she got tired of it, she said, you know what? I've had enough. I ain't doing this no more. And she didn't backtrack. She stuck with it. She went through with her divorce and she moved on. Or so it seemed that she was going to try to move on. But I say that to say, you can't begin the healing process and you can't begin moving forward until you are sure about your decisions. So she definitely did a great job at that. She said she didn't want to do it when she didn't want to do it anymore, and when she was still willing to give it another chance, she continued to do that. There was no gray area, and you weren't left confused about where she stood with her decision. So I want to end this video on more of a positive note. And there are two major themes that I gathered in watching this, and those are redemption and restoration. Now, there weren't any spiritual implications in the movie. It didn't appear that Robert and Taraji had a spiritual life or anything like that. But with LYP, we want to put a spin on it in more of a Christian spiritual perspective. And I feel as though Melinda in the movie would have been so much better off if she just surrendered her emotions and all these feelings that she had to God. Now, still, I believe in maintaining a good state of mental health and, utilizing psychologists and all those different types of things. Those things are critical. But as far as a spiritual perspective, she would have been so much better off just giving these issues and feelings and emotions to God. So redemption and restoration, God could redeem, and he could have redeemed all these years that Mel lost in being in this marriage to Robert. And he could restore her happiness, and he could get her back to a point of being content and being happy whether she was with him or not. I want to talk about Joel 2:25 and how in that verse it really talks about God restoring all the time that was lost to something. And I feel like this can even apply to lots of women now. I think that it showed a great depiction of how a lot of women feel and what a lot of women are probably going through today. So a lot of women feel like we deposit so much into men only for another woman to come and just reap the harvest. So if that's you, I'm here to tell you that God is a redeemer, and God will restore all that time, and to trust in him and not to be led into feelings of despair or darkness, and to not be overcome by your emotions, but to surrender it to God so that he can make something good out of it. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for life. I thank you so much for the time that you've given us. We know that it's not promised, and I pray that we can make the best of these things. God, we release all emotion to you, all hurt, all anger and bitterness that we may have from other people and what they've done to us. Let it make us stronger, and let us not hold on to it, but relinquish it to you to become better people and to get all that you have for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys like this review. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts about the movie. What did you think? What did you think about Melinda? What did you think about Robert? What did you think about the movie in general? And I will see you in the next video. It's Ladies You Are Powerful.